online speaker. The next video speaker will be from the Minister of Science and Technology of China, Wang Zhigang.
各位嘉宾、女士们、先生们，大家好！非常高兴有这个机会参加美籍华裔物理学家吴健雄诞辰110周年纪念活动。在此，我谨代表中国科技部，向吴健雄先生为世界物理学发展及中美科技人文交流做出的突出贡献致以崇高敬意，向此次活动的顺利举办表示诚挚的祝贺。吴健雄先生是世界顶尖试验物理学家，一生学术成就非凡，在核物理、中高能物理、量子力学等领域做出杰出贡献，用实验证明了宇称不守恒定律，首次证实了恩里克·费米的贝塔衰变理论，与居里夫人、丽丝·麦特纳一起被公认为20世纪最优秀的3位女性试验物理学家。作为一名华裔科学家，吴健雄先生学术生涯从中国起步，后在美国科技界取得巨大成功，获得中美两国同行高度认可。1958年当选美国科学院院士，1975年获得美国最高科学荣誉国家科学勋章，1994年当选中国科学院首批外籍院士。他追求真理的科学精神，勇于探索的创新精神，严谨求实的治学态度，谦虚简朴的律己品格，是优秀科学家的真实写照。正是无数像吴健雄先生这样兢兢业业、敢为人先的科学家实质创新，勇攀高峰，世界科学技术才能得以不断发展，人类文明才能持续进步。当年吴健雄先生虽身在美国，但仍关注支持中国科技发展，通过设立基金会等方式推动中国高校提高学术水平。从吴健雄先生的学术生涯中可以看出，交流合作是科学探索的内在需求。许多伟大的科学发现往往来自于科学家之间的思想碰撞。同时，科学研究的范式正在发生深刻变化，大科学工程、大科学计划的实施依赖世界各国科学家的共同努力，大科学装置、大型科学仪器和设备的建设与使用离不开各方通力协作。今天，应对全球性问题挑战，需要向科学要方法、要答案，这对开展高水平、高质量国际科技交流合作提出更高要求。中美科技交流可以追溯到两国建交之前。1971年，美籍华裔物理学家、诺贝尔奖获得者杨振宁先生率团访问中国，得到毛泽东主席和周恩来总理接见，并与中国科学家进行了广泛研讨。在两国没有建交的年代，科学家们同时担任了民间外交官的角色，他们的交流互动帮助双方建立了信任和理解。1979年1月，中美建交伊始，中国领导人邓小平和卡特总统在美国白宫签署了中美科技合作协定，这成为两国政府签署的首批双边协议之一。随后的40多年里，两国科技界开展了卓有成效的合作，成为中美关系发展的重要推动力量，在共同探索科学前沿、改善人民福祉方面取得了世人瞩目的成果。当前，世界100年未有之大变局深入眼镜，新冠肺炎疫情、气候变化、粮食安全、能源短缺等全球性问题不断显现，为各国发展经济、改善民生、实现可持续发展带来前所未有的挑战。新一轮科技革命和产业变革加速发展，科技创新成为100年变局中的关键变量。各国更应团结一心，携手前行，坚定不移开展国际科技交流合作，实现共同进步。中美两国作为世界上最重要的经济体，应当做出表率。近几年来，中美关系面临严峻挑战，美国政府和国会中的一些人用冷战思维看待和定义中美关系，视而不见中美关系互利共赢的本质和两国各界对中美关系尽快 重回正轨的期待，为两国科技的正常交流设置重重障碍。但应该看到，科学发展、技术进步有其自身的规律和逻辑，两国科技界开展正常交往，共同推动人类科技进步的期待从未改变。中国的创新发展离不开世界，世界的科技进步也越来越需要中国。未来中国科技开放合作的大门只会越开越大。中国科技部愿继续为推动中美科技交流合作不懈努力，为两国科技界开展正常交往创造良好条件。希望中美科技界的同事们、朋友们继续发挥积极作用，跨过国家、民族、文化、制度等不同元素交织的边界，开展心之所向的对话交流，共同突破制约世界科技发展的瓶颈，照亮人类文明前进的航向。最后，预祝此次活动取得圆满成功。谢谢。
I want to thank Minister Wang Zigang, who just sent us this video before the meeting, and we thank him for this comprehensive discussion very much. Thank you.
你好吗? You got it? Good. Just, it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger. Why I have the name Dutch, by the way, is that Charles Albert Ruppersberger is my name. That's too formal. Everybody called me Dutch when I was a baby. The doctor said, you have a big blonde Dutchman. I've been called Dutch all my life. And if you're in politics with a name like Ruppersberger, 13 letters, it just doesn't work. So I added Dutch to my name, and all my signs and all say, go Dutch. And you know what my opponents say? You pay. Okay, good. Well, it's an honor again to be here. And I know there are a lot of people outside here too. Hello, how you doing? And that aren't here. I really came here today. This is not my district. I represent the Baltimore region, and as a congressman, Maryland has 8 congressmen. David Trone is your congressperson, and he wasn't aware of this. My son Corey is sitting there, has friends here in East in China, and he was asked if he could get David to speak. Well, David, I got him to speak, and then he called me yesterday, and he was invited to the White House today. And that was a big deal for him. So he went to the White House. So I said, I'll be your friend, and I'll come to say a couple words. Over the course, and I know you do that for me. Yeah, it's easy. Push it up. Okay, do we have it? I just wanted to get your attention. That's all. Now, I know I'm here really today to honor Madam Xing Sheng Wu, and who is a very unique lady. She's no longer with us, but I think it's really whoever nominated her, you picked a good person. I also understand that you have 2 groups that we're talking to here, and the first group are a lot of alumni from the college. How many are from the college here? Raise your hands. Okay. I understand that most people, yeah, let's get a clap. Most people in this room, I've been told, are very, very smart. So anybody know what 1 + 1 is? It's a test. No? Well, it's 3. So got it. Okay. Anyhow, she became a leading authority and a lot in nuclear physics, a field at that time that was and still is to this day, dominated by men. And she became a leading authority who radically changed our view of the universe. When I went to college, I went to the University of Maryland, and I know Maryland also. Oh, how many Terps here? Raise your hand. Okay, that's good. Go Terps. Where? No, you. Did I know you? You look like a state senator from Montgomery County. Is that you? Gonna stand up and take your acknowledgement. It's election year. You need a. Okay. Anyhow, getting back, I can't claim to understand the concepts that were developed by Madame Wu, but I do know she changed the course of history the better. And while she never won the Nobel Prize, and many feel that she deserved, her face is now featured on a forever stamp issued by the U.S. Postal Service. And I understand the U.S. Postal Service owns this bill. Is that correct? No, that's good. Okay. You never know. All right. And hers was among the 3 stamps issued last year to honor the achievements of Asian Americans. The timing, I believe, was not coincidental. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, Asian Americans have been targets of unacceptable, horrific, and increasingly frequent acts of hate and intolerance. Generations of Asian Americans like Madame Wu have contributed their skills, passions, and patriotism to our country. We're stronger for that. And there is no place in our society for any type of racism. I was proud to join with my colleagues in passing legislation to expand multilingual reporting resources for victims of hate crimes and expediting the Department of Justice review of pandemic relating hate crimes. By the way, my background and what I do in Congress, I specialize in national security. I was the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee and number 2 on defense appropriations. So I do a lot of national security all over the world. And it's a dangerous world right now. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later. I'll just have a few more comments about China in the United States, where I think we need to go. So getting back, I've also worked hard to support women and girls in science, something that was so important to Madame Wu. We need more families to take up the STEM fields, to become cyber warriors, physicians, engineers, and yes, nuclear scientists. I also represent NSA, and that is a unique operation for the United States. We have some of the smartest people there in the world, but it's cybersecurity is so important because we're being attacked by thousands of thousands. And not only being attacked, it's being used in other ways that can hurt people. So we really, I can't get into a lot of good classified, but that's a NSA does a lot to protect us, to protect you all, to protect what we do and all the things that we do and the research. That's very important for our country. Anybody here work for NSA? Did I see one hand go up? Your hand go up? Oh no. When you shot. I'm picking on you right now. Good, thank you. Okay, now the elephant in the room that we're living in a time of growing tension between the United States and China. A time of growing competition, and that's good. And we must remember those people that have developed us, our bridge, people coming together to find out what about our differences so we can work together. The 2 countries must find ways to communicate better, work better, and to work to de-escalate the heated words we are hearing from our leaders on both sides, which could draw us to come. We must avoid that. That's why we're moving ahead, hoping that if we have weapons that can kill many, many people, hopefully never use. But that's not the way. We need to somehow find a way to start communicating. And we're not doing a good job. So do a lot. You all here in the United States can help in that regard. Just as we reach out to you, just got a young girl. Raise your hand, young girl. And it's the 4.0 average. Was the Naval Academy. I'm chairman of the Naval Academy Board. And we have people, citizens in the United States, families come from other countries. We need to have that those individuals communicate and learn and hopefully help the world. You know, first priority is our family, our community, our state, and our country. But we also have a world out there. We put together all the brain power that exists here in the United States, wherever, will be better for it. As the fortune of both countries flourish, we will face mutual challenges like climate change, and that's serious. Look at all the hurricanes, look at the things that it affects animals. It's only a matter of time where we're going to have more and more problems with our ocean, water, all of that. So I want to thank you for the opportunity just to be here. Again, I'm here for David. So most of you are represented. I assume it's David Trone and maybe and who? Okay. Yeah, well, let me say this about we call you all the Washington suburb, we call us the ball. And then we got Ocean City and we got Southern Maryland and that type of stuff. But we do work together. We have different philosophies sometimes, and a lot of time we have different philosophies in who we represent, and that's we work together. Maryland is new. We even have Nancy Pelosi, who was born here and she was raised here, and she went off to California, and she's back and studying warrior. So we have a lot of good people that are in the state of Maryland take the job very seriously. I can talk about a lot of issues. I think the one message that I want you all take away from me is have to work together. Our countries have to work. And it has to be done. And we do already. And a lot of people are Americans who were Chinese. And we have Americans from here that are in China right now. But that's the most important thing that we can do. We also have to help other countries that need our help. Because the more that the younger generation can learn, when children can't go to school before, I mean, that doesn't help anybody where they are. And these are things we have to focus on. But more importantly, when it comes to national security, we've got to tone it down and make a difference. And hopefully we can do that. That's where you come in and said it again. Because you're smart, you understand where we, especially in the physics and the scientific world, just makes us strong. Right now, we're proud of the United States, and I'm sure you're proud of your ancestors. My ancestors come from 5 different countries. I don't know what Plank's 47. That soup has all different flavors, and but I do know this: we are Americans, that we're trying to do the best we can. Now, any questions? I know everybody will be shy, but just need one. Anybody? And you know what? I picked on you once before. Do you have any questions or anything that you think right next to you in the way? Yeah. Well, that's up to them. You want me to talk to a reporter?
Congressman, unfortunately, we have a very tight schedule.
Good.
Could we, perhaps you could stay around so people could ask you questions on one-to-one?
Well, I'm sorry, I have 3 other events today.
Okay,
So
well, I hope people can come to your office, in your congressional office.
Yeah, now, one thing I understand what you're saying. Managing University, and I just want to acknowledge a lot of people who are here and have been educated there, and there are people out there that we're talking to. I have been told it's like the Harvard of China. So I just want to acknowledge that and to give that to the university.
The next speaker will be Professor Stephen Chu. He has a recorded video. Professor Chu, as you all know, is a 1997 Nobel Prize in Physics. And he was also the former Secretary of Energy as well as a distinguished professor of physics currently at Stanford University.
Hello. I've been asked to make a few comments about Madam C.S. Wu, who was arguably one of the most eminent physicists of her time, and certainly one of the most eminent women physicists of her time. And so my remarks will be very brief and more talking about some of the personal connections. I actually got to meet Madam Wu later in my life, but she was born in the same hometown as my father, Taichung, in Jiangsu province in 2012. And like my father, her father was an engineer, and my father's father encouraged women education up to the PhD level, way ahead of her time, and then similarly, Madame Wu's father encouraged the same. Now, Madame Wu was supposed to go to the University of Michigan for a PhD, but came to the United States in San Francisco and decided that perhaps Berkeley was more to her liking, to the chagrin of University of Michigan, but to the good fortune of University of California, Berkeley. She was immediately recognized as being brilliant, even though she was not in time with the academic career. She had then got a scholarship at Caltech, but the people at Berkeley said, no, this is someone special. We should try to bend some rules and allow her to be enrolled, which the chair of the department, Raymond Burge, then allowed. Now, she very quickly did some wonderful things at the University of California, Berkeley, and in 1940, she got her PhD. By this time, she began to attract the attention of some of the most stellar physicists at Berkeley at the time, and especially Emilio Segre. And Segre really said we should hire this person, even though she was a woman, even though she was Chinese, at a time when there was a lot of prejudice against both Chinese and women. And so he said, this is someone very special and we should hire her. And unfortunately, the chair of the department, Raymond Burge, said, well, I don't think so, because of those disqualifications in her mind, that being Chinese and a woman. And so, to the good fortune of Columbia, then Madame Wu ended up at Columbia. Now, during the time she was at Berkeley, she began to study beta decay. And this was turned out to be a lifelong, decades of incredible contributions in science. I should also say that my aunt was a contemporary. My older sister of my father was a contemporary of Wu, and she did go to Michigan to earn her PhD in organic chemistry. But so there were many connections there. In any case, she went to Columbia, and I just want to make a brief comment about her most famous work on all the things she contributed to in science. And that has to do, of course, with the famous parity non-conservation experiment. In 1956, Xian Yang, T.D. Lee had proposed, in order to resolve a paradox in high-energy physics called the theta-tau paradox, was it possible that the decay of these two products, which decayed into different so-called parity states, were one and the same particle? But if that happened, they said that would mean that the symmetry of parity, namely that the mirror image of the world, so right-hand screws become left-hand screws, that mirror image plus a rotation is that parity transformation where x goes to minus x, y goes to minus y, z goes to minus z. That was considered a fundamental symmetry of nature. There's nothing to prefer a so-called right-handed coordinate system with a left-handed coordinate system. Yang and Li looked at all the experimental evidence and found there was strong, compelling evidence of parity non-conservation in the electromagnetic interactions, in the strong interactions that are involved in particle creation. But surprisingly, they could find no evidence in the things responsible for beta decay, and more generally, the weak interactions. And so they suggested in this very famous paper that perhaps one could look and see if parity were indeed a conserved symmetry in the weak interactions. And so C.S. Wu was a colleague of T.D. Lee at Columbia, and so Lee goes there and says, we've got this experiment. It's going to be very difficult. Perhaps if you can align the nuclei of a nuclei of a nucleus that would beta decay via weak interactions, align it so that it would be spinning in predominantly one direction, you can test this experiment. Well, this required going to extremely low temperatures, adiabatic demagnetization temperatures, millikelvin temperatures, a very difficult experiment done in collaboration with what was then the National Bureau of Standards, now NIST. And in doing so, she confirmed, yes, indeed, parity symmetry was violated. It was maximally violated. And within a year after the announcement of the experimental results, Yang and Li shared the Nobel Prize. At the time, Yang was 35, Li was 31. In any case, there's been much discussion. She should have been the third person on that Nobel Prize, or maybe because it was she had collaborators at NBS. I don't want to get into that, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this was an immense scientific contribution. So let me just say how honored I am to be asked to make a few comments about Madame Wu. I knew about her just as I learned about Yang and Li since I was a young child, and was tickled to death when I was finally able to meet her later in my career and in her career. I just want to end by saying that here we are honoring a great person in science. The dialogue between scientists of all nations is a form of understanding and diplomacy that one hopes transcends some tense moments in the past. That we know that's true. In the future, we hope that will also be true. But let me finally conclude by saying it's my honor to say a few things about C.S. Wu, Madame Wu, and I wish your celebration the best of success. Thank you.
Let's welcome Chen Futao, Minister Counselor of Chinese Embassy. He's going to read the remarks on behalf of Ambassador Qin Gang, the Honorable Ambassador Extraordinary and Planetary of the People's Republic of China to the United States.
Good morning, work. Good morning, everyone. As you can understand, Ambassador Qin is now in New York, and he cannot come to join this event as he has hoped. I'll be happy to read his speech. It's my honor to be invited to make a speech to commemorate Madame C.S. Wu's 110th birth anniversary. I'm very delighted to see the Chinese and American colleagues can now jointly celebrate this outstanding female Chinese American scientist who enjoys great reputation in both China and US. Madame Wu was born in last century. It was a time full of turbulence, and people did not enjoy such an open, inclusive, and international education environment as we have today. Most people were bounded by old ideas. She was one of the few who had higher education in those days. She chose physics as her major and a lifetime pursuing dream, which was for most boys, even today, may be very challenging and tough. She loved physics, so she wanted to understand and study well and discover what she was really looking for. With this deep love and courage, she overcame difficulties and traveled all the way from China to the United States to find the answer. Because the strong determination and dedication, she eventually achieved a series of extraordinary research achievements and became a world-leading experimental physicist. Madame Wu left many valuable spiritual wealth for us in her pursuit of the truth, like her perseverance and determination to take the challenge, not conventionally following what the books said, but trying to find real facts and truth, paying more attention to the precision and rigorousness in experiments. Her whole life through, what the Chinese people always say, practice is the only criterion to test the truth. Her perseverance and independent thinking inspired many later generations, especially women scientists who devote themselves to the scientific exploration of the unknown. She often told her students to pursue what you love most and strive for it with great enthusiasm. Due to the reform and opening up, China today is a nation with openness, inclusiveness, innovation, and sharing. The scientific literacy of Chinese citizens has developed greatly. More and more young people become interested in science. More and more clever girls are studying STEM. I know that today many Chinese and American middle and high school students and teachers of physics or science are watching this event online. I hope teenagers will follow Madame Wu's spirits and become into talents with ambition, especially on a passion towards science. In the future, you would contribute wisdom and strength to the scientific exchange and development between China and the United States. Madame Wu is a distinguished scientist, respected and admired by the people of both China and the United States, as well as the world. Her life is an excellent example to prove that scientific exchange owns no borders, and the only correct way to progress is to actively cooperate and promote the exchange. The current US and China relationship is in a phase of readjustment. As the world's two largest economies, China and the United States should work together to address the common challenges facing humanity. I sincerely hope that in the future, more scientific exchange and dialogue mechanism can be established between scholars, between universities, and even between middle and high school students. China and the United States should join hands to promote more people to understand and love physics, devote themselves to science, and make contribution to the progress of the two countries and the world. Thank you.